That's an issue. I'd like to call to order the April 13th, 2016 meeting of the Ascension Planning Commission. All members are present. We did the pledge during the Zoning Commission staff introductions.
Stacy Webb, Secretary for Planning and Development.
Cody Martin, Attorney for the Planning Commission.
Lance Brock, zoning official.
Ben Moran, planner.
Sean Chereau, Engineer Reviewing Agency.
Thank you. We will move on to item number 5, Chairman's comments. The Chair does have some comments tonight. At our last meeting, there were several new members of the commission present, and prior to the meeting, we had received an email from Ricky Compton, who was the planning director at the time, to come a little bit early for a meet and greet of the new members, which I thought was very valuable because other than Mr. Chasson and Mr. Foster, I did not know the other new members and would like to have at least met them before we had our first meeting. During that time, there was some individuals not affiliated with the commission in the back room dealing with some issues with the engineering staff, and that raised some questions during the meeting. There was nothing improper going on in the back room. I don't believe any of the commissioners actually met with the individuals that were back there. I know I certainly did not, and I did not see any other of the commissioners or the new commissioners doing it. So nothing illegal went on. However, to use a term that's often quoted in the media, the optics may have looked bad. And certainly we want to be transparent on everything that we do. So from this point forward, the meeting room in the back prior to the planning and zoning meetings on the first Wednesday of every month will be reserved for the commissioners, the parish staff, and people affiliated directly with the commission itself. I spoke to Councilman John Cagnolati about this, and I think they were planning to do that as a council as a whole. That being said, I know I speak for myself. I don't know how the other commissioners feel, but I feel that we are public servants, even though appointed, and we are certainly accessible to anybody in the public who wishes to speak to us at any time about the issues that come before this commission. Our contact information is available, I believe, on the website, and I would invite anybody who has concerns or questions other than at the meetings to contact us if necessary, and certainly you get your right to speak here at the meeting. Moving on then to general business. There's no general business under item 6. Item 7, approval or denial of the minutes of the March 9th, 2016 Planning Commission meeting. Can I get a motion on that?
Motion.
Moved by Mr. Chasson, second by Mr. Dumas. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Item 8, the consent agenda. Do I get a motion to pass the consent agenda?
So moved.
And so moved by Mr. Dudley, second by Mr. Christie. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, we move on to the motion passes unanimously. Item 9, public hearing to approve or deny the following family partitions. 9A, the Noel property, lots JN1A and JN1B, Earls and Associates. Mr. Falgood.
James Fagel representing Ms. Nyla Jordan on the following petition, asking the council for approval. We're just cutting out one lot so her son could build a house.
Do we have any staff comments on this?
Sorry, no, sir, other than just that it's an existing private road, so the current users of it will need to sign the plat. He's put signature lines on there for all them to sign it. Once all their signatures are on it, it's okay for you guys, for you guys to sign it.
We will open a public hearing on this matter. Is anybody signed up to speak on this? And then we will close the public hearing. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Falgood or the staff? All right, can we get a motion
I'll move.
to approve?
Yes.
Moved by Mr. Foster to approve the family partition, subject to all the, I assume, the
Contingencies.
landowners signing on the plat. Do we have a second to the motion?
Second.
A second by Mr. Bishop. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes
Thank you.
unanimously. Item 10, public hearing to approve or deny the following preliminary plats. 10A Galvez Trails, MR Engineering and Surveying, LLC.
Good evening. My name is Mickey Robertson with MR Engineering and Surveying. here tonight to present the preliminary plat for Galvez Trails. This development is, this development is it's on 8 acres of Crossroads commercially zoned property. Sorry, I'll make sure y'all can hear me okay. Can you hear me okay? Yes? Okay. The development is that we're presenting tonight is 41 lots on 8 acres of commercial Crossroads zone property. It's located on Highway 44, pretty much at the intersection. If you're familiar with where the Atmos Energy office is, it's right across the street from there. The Crossroads zoning allows for up to 10 lots per acre. The plan we have before you tonight is only 5 lots per acre. They are 40 by 120 zero lot line homes. We had a pre-application conference for this project in January prior to Mr. Compton leaving, and also with the sewer department. Subsequently, we made our application in February. We submitted the appropriate drainage impact and traffic impact studies. We have approval letters of both of those studies from DPW, traffic, and the engineering department. Consequently, as a result of the recently approved traffic impact study ordinance, this development will be paying somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,700 to $2,000 per lot for a traffic impact fee. In addition to that, because of the recently enforced sewer impact fee ordinance, this development will be paying $2,500 per lot for sewer impact fees. Also, in addition to having the drainage impact study approved, we met with Councilman Lambert earlier this week to discuss whether or not there were any drainage issues relevant to this property and the development of it. He did indicate that there were some issues along Highway 44 in this area, and it seemed to stem from the southwest corner of this property. Had a drainage culvert that maybe was undersized that sort of drained off to the east. So what we committed to at that point was, in addition to piping a ditch on the south side of our property, was to replace that culvert and basically doubling the size of it. And Councilman Lambert was also going to investigate getting the outfall ditch off of our property, cleaned out. It's in public drainage servitude, so he was going to look at getting that cleaned out to help with drainage in the area. Other than that, we've addressed all comments from the Planning Commission. You know, we have their recommendation for approval, so I'd be happy to answer any of your questions, and I ask for your approval tonight. Thank you.
Any staff comments on this?
Not really comments. You guys have questions?
Before we get to that, let's go ahead and open the public hearing. Is anybody signed up to speak on this?
Jeff Pettit.
Mr. Pettit.
Thank you, Mr. Pryor. This is more of a procedural question, and I probably should have gone to Mr. Moran or Mr. Brock and asked them. But in the packet, and I read it, it's quoted statute ordinance 18-115.7, but that doesn't match what's on Municicode. So I don't know which one is correct. Is it the one that was in the packet given to us, or the one that's on Municicode, which is where we're referred to on the website? When I go to ascensionparish.net, there seems to be it's not just a matter of a word or two being different. It seems to be substantially different, and I'm a little confused there. And this may not be the right forum for that, but if Mr. Martin or Mr. Brock, Mr. Moran, at some point, there's more than a gray area there. And that's all I have, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? All right, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing on that. I'm assuming that whatever version of 18115.7 is the most updated version will be the one that's enforced. I would think that's right, Mr. Martin, isn't that?
Yeah, that's going to be correct.
Yeah.
And I'll look into the issue, but we're going to enforce the most updated version of it.
Yes, the most current version,
Yes.
whatever source that may be. And I'm sure the parish is going to update their online code after that. All right, commissioners, are there any questions or comments for staff or for Mr. Robertson?
I have a question for staff or maybe the petitioner. The culvert in question in the southwest corner, is that a culvert crossing Highway 44?
No, sir. It's east of Highway 44. It's actually on the subject property.
It's on the subject property?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just to clarify, this is a commercial development?
No. Single-family residence, 0 lot lines.
In a crossroad commercial zone?
Yes, sir.
And that's permitted?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, that's permitted in a crossroad commercial, single-family dwelling, and it's permitted in this district. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the commissioners?
I have a question. The letter from, looks like Rhonda Bro, there's a statement says in the first paragraph, the plans appear to address current Ascension Parish ordinance requirements and are hereby preliminarily approved, which sounds like there was something either missing or the fact that the drainage that was submitted simply was absent. And I'm just trying to get some clarification on that. What can you, someone in the planning department, kind of explain what that is addressing and what is missing or what we should be taking from that?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
This is Sean Schroe, the Engineering Reviewing Agency. This is a standard letter that Rhonda Bro and DPW have been passing out. It just clearly states that drainage calculations sometimes just can't be finalized until you get to the detailed construction phase. And so basically what we're stating here that is this is a substantial complete study for this state of design, which is a preliminary plat level. And then once we get to construction plans, when you get to more detailed design, then some items would need to be finalized at that time.
Any other comments or questions by the commissioner?
Is
Mr. Chasson.
the replacement of the culvert on the southwest portion of the property, is that, or the east of Highway 44, is that part of the plat, or do we have to amend to include that as part of the conditions? Or how does that work?
I think Mr. Robinson can answer.
We'd be okay if that was a condition, part of the conditional approval. If you wanted to add that in there, that'd be okay. We're committed to that.
Can we get a motion on this?
I'll make a move to approve with the condition that the culvert in discussion be improved to a minimum of double its size in compliance with any drainage requirements the parish may have.
Go ahead. You
That would be
finish?
it.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Dumas. A second? Yeah, go ahead, Ben.
I'd like to add, the transportation impact fees were just recently passed.
Correct.
I think he should add something to this plat stating that he'll be paying the impact fees in accordance with whatever.
Do we have to make it part of the plat to enforce the law that's been passed?
No, but it makes it much easier for the people that look at this plat, and then later down the line, we'll
Subsequent,
look at
okay.
the final plat, if those notes can keep carrying over on.
Do you want to add
Everything.
that to your motion?
I'll be more than happy to add that, but I'd like to ask staff a question. I mean, it seems to me that maybe you should, by policy, say that, you need to have a standard statement that needs to be on every plat that says, ordinance so-and-so requires the payment of an impact fee. I wouldn't want the dollar signs because they may change, but I would say that the notice should say that all single-family residents will have to, are required to pay both a road and a sewer impact fee in accordance with established Ascension Parish ordinances. And I would add that to my motion.
Okay. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Mr. Bishop. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition?
Nay.
Mr. Foster, okay, we have an opposition, so we have to have a roll call vote?
Yes, sir.
All right, we have a roll call vote. Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Dudley?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
Mr. Christie?
Yes.
Mr. Chasson?
Yes.
Mr. Foster?
No.
Motion passes 6-1. Thank you, sir. All right, moving on to item 11 of the agenda, public hearing to approve or deny the following subdivision final plat. Item 11A, Dutchtown Meadows, subdivision, MR Engineering and Surveying.
Matt, just to go back on the last one, I think the motion passed 5-1.
5-1, okay.
Make sure the minutes reflect that.
Went to law school, apparently not math school. Thanks.
I think Mr. Pryor was given his approval, is why he said 6-1.
I don't get to vote on that one.
Thank you. Mickey Robertson again, here tonight to just ask for your approval for this final plat for Dutchtown Meadows. It's 100 lots on 33.8 acres. We had a final inspection about a week and a half ago. We have addressed all the construction items associated with that punch list. I believe one of the last remaining items we have is to provide the maintenance bond. Other than that, we're happy to answer your questions, and we ask for your approval. Thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and open a public hearing on this. Has anybody signed up to speak on this issue? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Any comments by the staff or questions by the commissioners or comments by the commissioners? Mr. Christie.
Yes, under the staff review comments, I see where there was a variance asked for. There was let's see, they didn't meet the minimum requirements for square footage, 28 to 142 square feet under the minimum. And it seemed as though that was a mistake all the way from the start.
Yes, sir, that mistake was made at the preliminary plat stage and not caught until the final plat stage. And by that point, they're already 95% done with construction. So it's the easiest thing for them to do is just request a variance. And I mean, if you look, the variances range from 28 square feet to 142 square feet, too small, which isn't that big of a deal. Even if you guys were to deny the variance and make them increase the lots from 28 to 142 square feet, the same houses are going to go on those lots. It's not going to make a difference. I mean, I think these guys have the houses already dialed, what kind of house, what floor plan is going on what lot. The 28 to 100 square feet is not going to affect that. But they would like to have the variance approved and on the plat approved so that there's never any issues further down the road.
Just out of curiosity, exactly how many is several lots? Oh,
Are you asking me?
yeah.
Yeah.
They're listed. He added a little table to the plat that lists them. But basically, it's the runs from lot 60 to 46 and down 97 to 85, 60,
It's 26 lots.
8, 80, 1 to 15. And there's some in there that aren't too small, too, though.
There's a quarter of the subdivision, roughly.
It's a lot of them.
That was going to be my question, Mr. Chairman. That's what I was wondering. In that table, all of these lots that are listed from 46 to 97 are all 142 square feet too small? Is that what that table says?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And just
So
for
that's
reference, that,
essentially a piece of land 12 by 12 feet.
or in this case, 120 feet deep by 2 inches wide. So it's really very minimal in the overall picture. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions by the commissioners?
Just to, just to make sure procedurally we're right, did we advertise the variance as well?
Yeah, it was part of the packet.
Okay, no,
Yep.
okay,
Now, you guys have to vote on the variance before you vote on approval of the
correct.
final plat.
Yeah, that should be included in the staff recommendation as well. It's a contingency that you guys grant that variance.
Okay. What about the punch list items for the engineering punch list items? Have they been satisfied? Where are we on those?
Yes, I'm pretty sure about 95, probably 90% of these have been addressed. There's a couple of things we just need to go back and verify, but they're all would be very minor, and And so, I mean, if you had to make a recommendation, would be just conditionally approved, satisfying all these punch list items that are on here that they may still be outstanding.
Any other comments by the commission? Any other questions? Staff, do you have any comments on this? Okay. Do we have a motion? Well, do we need to take up the variance first?
Take the variance first, yeah.
Okay. If the variance fails,
Then you can't approve it
okay.
as is.
Do we have a motion on the requested variance regarding the, quote, several lots that are undersized?
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion by Mr. Dudley, and a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Mr. Bishop, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, the variance is granted. All right, do we have a motion then on the approval of the major subdivision final plat?
I'll make the motion to approve, subject to compliance with all staff requirements,
The punch list items?
the punch list
All right.
items.
Motion by Mr. Dumas, do we have a second? Second by Mr. Christie, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition?
No.
All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Dudley?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
Mr. Christie? Mr. Chesson?
Yes.
Mr. Foster?
No.
Motion passes 5-1. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, 11B, public hearing to approve or deny the following subdivision final plat, New River Oaks subdivision by Benchmark Group LLC.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Murray McCullough with Benchmark Group Engineering, 11328 Pennywood Avenue in Baton Rouge, 70809. We respectfully request given approval contingent on a punch list being completed and staff level, other items. The development is in general conformity with the plans. There are a few items out there that need to be completed, but most can be completed within a week or so. So we respectfully ask that, given general compliance with the subdivision with the final plat and the construction plans, that we be given contingent final plat approval tonight. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. We'll open a public hearing on this. Has anybody signed up to speak on this? No. Yes, sir. Did you want to speak on this? Yeah. All right. If please come forward first and state your name. And just for anybody out there who wishes to be heard on any issue, please sign a card before you, before the meeting, or come up now and sign a card so that we know you're willing to speak. And sir, please state your name, and you have 3 minutes to be heard on this.
Okay, I'm Ernest Stevens. I live at 37251 Cornerview Road, right next to where they're building the New River Oaks subdivision. And I've been having a lot of problems. They tore all my fences down, and I've asked them to fix it. They haven't fixed anything. They built some sidewalks, and they had to build a banquet for their sidewalk. The banquet is across the property line on my property, and I talked to them about it. They didn't do anything. There's some trees that they pushed over on my place. I asked them to clean it up. They hadn't cleaned anything up. And I got pictures where they pump water out of their sewer plant. They pumped that on my place. And I've just been having a lot of problems with them.
You have those pictures with you, sir?
Sure, I sure do.
You can put those up on the Elmo right there so that they can be viewed if you'd like. So I think those pictures are upside down. If you could kind of rotate them for us, because what we're
Okay.
seeing is, if you look up, you can see them on the TV. That, I think that looks better.
Okay.
You can see through.
They can turn it back the other way.
There you go.
That's the grass is growing. I asked them to cut it. I had the sheriffs out there 3 times, and this is a bunch of trash that was dumped on their property, so they moved it on my property, and so I said, well, I'll just burn it. And then after I finished burning it, there was a whole bunch of paint cans that they hide underneath the bottom of the pile. They got burned up.
What's your address, sir? I'm getting.
37-251 Cornerview Road at Geismar.
Thank you, sir. Do we have anybody else that signed up to speak for this, on this hearing? No, you may come forward, sir.
I'm James Hendrick. I'm the developer for the property. And I talked to him last Saturday on site, and that we addressed these issues. Somebody apparently, that last picture you saw of the trash, somebody came down the road, backed their trailer up, and dumped the entire load of trash on the edge of our property and his. So I had my guys clean it up, and he had a burn pile next door, and the laborers threw some paint cans that was in the trash pile in his pile. We talked about it. They pulled them out, and we also talked about last Saturday he had called the sheriffs out there, and I was going to let this rain pass, and I was going to, by the end of next week, there was a barbed wire fence that was in the tree line on the property that got tore down during construction. And I told him I was going to have this barbed wire fence repaired for him once I got my punch list stuff done, and it dried up by the end of next week. This happened last Saturday, correct?
Oh, it's been happening. I had the sheriffs out there. That was the 3rd time I had the sheriffs out there Saturday.
But did we not agree Saturday that I would have 2 weeks to get your fence fixed?
We've been going at this for a long time. For over March the 1st, I had the sheriffs out there because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. I gave them 30 days. I called the sheriffs back a 2nd time, and then so I called them back a 3rd time Saturday when I find all these paint cans got burned up.
We looked through all the trash, and I would love to find out who did that. We tried getting some serial numbers on the paint cans from where they came from. We couldn't find out who it was. Nobody saw them come in and out of the subdivision, dump that. So we cleaned that up, and I apologize to you about the paint cans and the fire. So my laborers did that, and they're on my property now, correct?
Yeah.
And by the end of next week, like we talked about Saturday, I will have your barbed wire fence repaired along that side like we talked about. I'm 100% fine with that.
Okay.
So far, you hadn't done anything you said you was going to do. We talked about over 30 days, you were supposed to push all that trash up, and you didn't do it.
We talked last Saturday when you called the cops out there, and the cops will have a deposition or whatever for it.
Wrote down, and I got a number.
Well, sir, I would suggest you hold him to that Friday, and if his stuff isn't out of there by Friday, I would call the sheriff back and do that, and you have a record here of what was said here and the promises made here.
Yeah, because he told me he was going to have all this done by Saturday afternoon.
Okay.
And
Well, we have a record here tonight. We're on TV, so it's documented, sir.
Well, the trash has been cleaned up, and by next Friday, which would be the 2-week period from last Saturday, I promise I will have the fence repaired.
All right, very good. Thank you, sir. All right, is anybody else signed up to speak on this matter? All right, we're going to close the public hearing on this. Yes, sir.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to restate that as an engineer, I was unaware of these type of issues. It wasn't a design issue or anything. So I was unaware of that, but nonetheless, I still think that having been on the record today, I have no objections to that being added to a punch list to be completed prior to staff, reviewing that and approving the final plat. So that being said, I would still like to reiterate my respectful request that the plat be approved contingent on those items. And I appreciate your time, sir.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Yes,
Sir,
I
Mr.
do.
Dudley.
One issue that wasn't addressed, it was brought up, is this water or drainage going on to the other property.
Embankment on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was the embankment on
Yeah.
the sidewalk and
Yeah.
pump off water.
Engineering, what about that embankment that he showed on the picture that is allegedly is on the side of the sidewalk encroaching onto the adjoining property's owner?
I mean, don't recall if that, if, you know, we don't have property stakes and property lines at a final inspection for, so, I mean, only way for us to verify exactly where the property is relative to that field and the dirt slope is, you know, possibly have the engineer out there or surveyor to document the property line at that location. So, as you can imagine, you know, seeing the dirt work out there, there's nothing out there just to show us exactly where the property line is, so. If that's something y'all want us to see and address, and we can just add that as a part of, should you approve this conditionally, just add that to the list to, you know, meet with staff and resolve whatever encroachment, should that, you know, actually happen at this site.
I have a question, and maybe the engineering staff could do this. For a long time, ever since I've been on this commission, we've approved both preliminary plats and final plats that are subject to certain conditions, particularly on preliminary plats, subject to getting the engineering study done, or the traffic engineering study done correctly, subject to or contingent upon getting flood drainage issues resolved before beginning construction. And maybe that's not a good practice. Maybe we should hold fast and have the developers have everything done before they come to us. But on both this plat and the last plat, there's punch list items which have been characterized as kind of minor. And I would ask, particularly the engineering consultants, is this something that's the custom or the practice in the industry to have these remaining punch list items prior to final approval or approval of the final plat?
Of course, I've just been transitioning on here in the past couple of months, but in the situations where jurisdictions require projects to come back to a planning commission for a final approval, for final plat, it's a timing situation to where you may have one more week of punch list items, but they'd be jeopardizing losing 30 days of an approval. So having punch lists like this is, in my experience, is not uncommon with the arrangements that Ascension Parish has, and where you have to come back to a planning commission asking for a final plat approval. So typically, you see these items, a punch list, everyone, from what I've seen, approve it conditionally upon addressing punch list items. I believe it's actually in the ordinance to where before a final plat can be signed, there's approval letters come from DPW and or engineering review agency certifying that everything has properly been addressed, testing lab items, maintenance bond items. So there are checks and balances in the ordinance that allows us to address items like this that would be addressed after planning commission approval.
I guess my question is, I mean, there's the system is set up to come before this body for approval, and really, I guess in part and in practicality, if we approve it contingent upon, and this is more directed to preliminary plats, but since it's been an issue on the last two final plats that we have, I'm going to ask the question. If we approve it contingent on compliance with the drainage study, in practicality, that's no difference than denying it until the drainage study is approved by the engineering department. But at the same time, the system's set up that way, and if we have contingencies built in and contingencies are part of the practice, then what's to stop a developer from just throwing together something and throwing it up to this commission and saying, oh, well, just approve it contingent, and it's really not a picture of what should or should not be, or what will eventually be done. And I would ask these issues, these punch list items, because when I think of punch list, I think of, you know, you're going through your house that you're building for final inspection, making sure the light switches are in the right place, versus something major like getting drainage approval. and is there a difference, and are we setting a bad precedence here by approving minor stuff approving contingent on these minor punch list items?
And let me just add ditto. I agree with that sentiment entirely. I think it sets up a precedent that we're telegraphing to the rest of the world that we allow these things to be cobbled together, and based on these contingencies, we'll go ahead and approve these things. But it doesn't meet what I think is the pragmatic reason for this approval process, is that you would have it all completed and ready to be approved.
And I guess to couple that is if it's something, if these punch list items in the industry of developing property and developing subdivisions are a natural part of it, then I'm more comfortable with it than something major and continuing a precedence where we just say, well, as long as as long as whatever you've done up meets the code otherwise, and we'll worry about the engineering studies afterwards. Are these simply minor things, or are these major ticket items that we have to be concerned about?
Well, if I may, Mr. Chair, I'm a planner, and I've done this across the country in many ways, and there are many instances where the final plats don't even go back to a public hearing. It's left entirely to staff, and they have very clear parameters that they can't deviate from. They can allow a lot of changes, such as alignment of the road and things like that, but they can't change land masses, number of lots, and things like that. And the plat never comes back to the Planning Commission for a public hearing, simply because it becomes a technical issue. And most of these punch list items are technical issues. You either comply with the drainage or you don't comply with the drainage. Your engineering of the roads either comply with the technical requirements or they don't. So long as the subdivision doesn't generally change from what was approved, from the things that from a planning perspective are critical, which is the traffic outflow and the general layout of the subdivision, the rest of it becomes very technical. And so in many places, they don't even come back to a public body for final approval. They're left to those technicalities. Now, if they can't comply with the technicality, generally they do go back and the approval gets revoked, or they're given a timeline by which they have to meet that compliance.
And of course, our system, for better or for worse, they have to come back to us. So it is what it is. And I think you're answering my question because we don't have any. I think we had one preliminary plat tonight, which really wasn't that controversial, but we've dealt with other preliminary plats where, if you approve a contingent, there's really no onus on the developer to make sure their ducks are lined up before they come before us. Whereas here, we have a final plat, construction, or there's been a lot of work done already. We have just some minor things to finalize this up. Technical things, I think, is what you said.
Purely technicalities.
Mr. Dudley, yes, you'd like to.
Yes. Couple things. One, counting through the punch list, there are 30 items that have to be completed, and I think that's a lot. And secondly, if, as the staff recommends, approval contingent upon satisfactory completion of all outstanding comments and all punch list items, I don't think you should sign off on the plan until the punch lists are completed. In other words, if we approve it.
Yeah, no, and that's what I say.
Contingent.
In all honesty, it's from a practical standpoint, if we approve anything with a contingency until those contingencies are met,
right,
then there's no approval. That's the bottom line of the contingency. At the same time, there's certain code parameters which must be met, and maybe it's on preliminary plats where those should be lined up and ready to go with some minor variations before it comes to us. And
Correct.
maybe but it doesn't sound like these are the type of things. If it's technical, as you say, Mr. Dumas, with your experience on that, and I appreciate that insight.
I would say that it wouldn't hurt me in the least bit to put a timeline on them and says, if they can't get it resolved in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, then I think our approval should be contingent on you're going to approve it within 2 weeks, or you're going to be back here next time, and then you're going to lose the time, period. But I mean, I think to put the burden on staff to just continue on and on and on, and I've had that happen to me where I've gotten the approval and told, okay, you got 2 weeks to resolve your issues. If you don't, you're coming back next month. And I think that keeps the pressure on them to comply and sort of relieves a little bit of the pressure from staff.
And that really was my concern, because if it is 2 or 3 weeks that we're talking about, what's the harm in delaying the approval process until for the extra 30 days? In other words, that they are brought up to speed, these contingencies have already been met, and that what we're asked to approve or deny is essentially a completed process here.
In most instances, it's a financial concern more than anything else. There's a development mortgage out there that has a timeline. There's a sale of the property that's pending. A lot of it is strictly financial. That's why they're here. They're not here because they want to speed up. They're here because there's a financial reason to be here.
And I would ask engineering, these punch list items, how far down are we on getting these completed? Are they fairly well done?
Yes, I would say we're probably about 90% complete based on last conversation I had with DPW. So a lot of times when these items get addressed, the staff will come by the site and start checking off some of the items. But
so since our packets went out until today, most of these issues on the letter in our packet, which is dated April 4th, have been resolved.
Yeah, most of them, yes. And you notice the date of the final inspection was on
March 31st.
Yeah, so it takes a couple of days to get them out. So at that time, you met, developers and contractors. They're sitting there at the site, trying to understand what these punch list items will be by the time we get out, and they're working on it. Sometimes they're working on it right at the same time that we're at the site trying to address some of these items, especially when you have good weather. So they've had, so what is that, about 2 weeks? I guess since the 31st. I'm bad on my math on the calendar there, but usually, they can apply a lot of crews, a lot of people in good weather to knock out a whole lot of punch list items. Sometimes these items are repeated. We might repeat the same box 3-4 times, or 3-4 boxes need to be cleaned out. That's, a crew can knock that out pretty quickly. So some it look like a lot of comments, but a lot of times we just keep repeating the same type of comment and keep referencing, the same comment to multiple locations. A lot of times these, we counted up 30, but it may be 10 actual items, types of works that need to be addressed. So,
is there some sort of standard for what is punch list, typically punch list, versus something major that maybe sometimes we're calling punch list? I mean, it seems like on some of these we see where drainage or traffic issues are listed as punch list, and that to me seems a bit more substantial than what I think of when I think of punch list item. Like you were saying, Matt, I kind of think, typically a punch list is, either a switch isn't working or there's paint that needs to be put on the baseboard or something, as opposed to, hey, 2 doors and a window is missing. And I think that's kind of what we're getting into on some of these.
I think we have to defer to the engineers on that, but I would certainly defer to you, sir.
Yes, typically if there is a major item, I recall, in the past, usually we'll point that, it's a big gray area what's a major item or not. But if you think about what they transformed, a complete vacant piece of land, installed all of these, miles of asphalt, curb and gutter, pipes and stuff. A lot of this stuff that, they're doing out in weather, every time it rains, they're trying to clean things up. So a lot of these things are cleanup. A major comment would be, in my opinion, completely forgot to install a pipe, or forgot to install a sanitary sewer manhole, or completely changed and built something that's completely far off from the construction plans. But typically these major items are caught during construction because we have inspectors that go by the site. We review testing reports throughout the process of construction. They have post-construction testing results. So those are the checks and balances that keep major items from happening. And so by the time we get to the end of construction, we review the testing reports. It's why it really are, they are punch list items. I mean, it may seem, to tell one of us that a minor item is to go hop into a box with a bucket and clean out a foot of dirt. That sounds like a lot to us, but this is common work for these guys. It's considered a punch list item. So that's why typically if it's called a punch list on subdivisions, at the end, they really are small, minor items that can be knocked out in probably about 2 weeks of good weather. And if things are done right throughout construction, you very rarely see a major item pop up on these lists.
Very good, thank you, sir. Do we have any more comments or questions by the commissioner?
Ultimately,
Sure.
ultimately, the problems that Mr. Stevens is having, they are going to be put on the punch list to be straightened out, because under the welfare and the safety and all for our citizens is one of the main reasons we're here, I think, you know.
Well, I think that the difference is that they're looking at the engineering drawings and the physical improvements.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
And so this gentleman has come up to us and has brought us some issues that are off-site. And I think if we want those addressed, we need to make them a condition of the approval that they have to be resolved, because they generally won't look at that.
And I certainly have empathy for Mr. Stevens, and I would ask legal, before we go down that road, if we go down that road, can we make that a condition? And I don't know how we can enforce that, because certainly we don't have any enforcement mechanism on third parties or in favor of third parties that way.
What you can do is under section 174020, which deals with plats and data for final approval, under subsection E, it says that you guys as the planning commission can put such other certificates, affidavits, endorsements, or deductions as may be required by the planning commission in enforcement of those regulations.
Okay.
So you can add whatever you want, you know, contingent upon, and don't sign a final plat by the chairman until those are met.
Okay. Well, then that answers that question, and that should help Mr. Stevens. So, all right. Any other comments, questions by the commission?
I got one more comment.
Yes.
Of the long list of mostly engineering stuff, the thing that I'm responsible for looking at is the tree requirements, and I don't know that whether or not they are done with that, because I passed by there and I saw that some trees were planted, but I couldn't walk out there and look at them closely because it's just too muddy and I have my pretty shoes on. But it doesn't look like they have enough. I think what they required is 8 Class A and 16 ornamental, but what I think I see is 21 Class A and 3 ornamental, which is okay that they're over on the Class A because they need to be anyway because they're too small in caliper. But if that evens out by having extra Class A, then they're shy on the number of ornamental trees that they need.
So what we need to do is make sure that if we do approve it, that it meets the code on, or it's subject to meeting the code in terms of the
landscape requirements. I don't know that they are done or not. I just know I passed by and they were there was trees there, so maybe they got more coming. I'm not sure.
Okay. Can you address that, sir?
Yes, sir. Ben and I met on the site for the walkthrough, and Ben, I think I can explain this. If you drove by on the back side of the pond, we planted cypress trees, Class A cypress trees, on the back side of the levee, on 5 feet behind the levee. So you might not have seen those from when you were driving by.
No, because I couldn't go look.
But I can verify with you, we planted all of them.
How many were back there?
I know we planted over 30. Okay. And,
well, they'll have to be looked at again.
Okay. Well, I think we
but
can
I couldn't see them back there, and back there it's all wooded anyway, so you can't from the road.
Okay. Well, I think we can make that to contingent if we approve it to make sure that the landscape requirements are.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it was on the record that it's not done.
All right.
Possibly.
Any other questions or comments from the commission?
Just a general comment. We talked earlier about on a different issue about the optics of it. I just think that if we reduce the number of contingencies, and I understand we're talking about final plats here, so this really does need to be addressed more to preliminary plats. But if we had them reduced, I think it would look better. It'd definitely be a better pill to swallow.
I don't necessarily disagree with that at all. All right. Anything else? Hearing nothing, can we get a motion regarding New River Oaks subdivision?
I'm going to try one on you. I'm going to move to approve, subject to addressing all staff requirements included in the punch list item, with one additional requirement, and that is that the property corners be clearly identified so staff can confirm that there are no improvements outside the property of this development, including any embankments or fill or whatever, that the adjacent property owner's barbed wire fence be erected in a manner acceptable to both parties, and that the landscape requirements be verified for compliance.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Christie. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank y'all. All right, item 11C, public hearing to approve, deny River Landing's second filing, quality engineering. Mr. Byerger.
Mr. Chairman, members, good afternoon. We ask that y'all approve River Landing final plat. We do have, I think it's 3 punch list items outstanding. One, it's unclear whether the bottom of the swell ditch by lots 32 and 36 is located in the right spot. And that's because there's just a big area and there's a big, large slope, and Sean just wanted, the survey's been done, the data has not been downloaded and actually put on a file and sent to him so he can review to ensure that the middle of the swell is where it goes. So that is one item that's still left. There, during inspection, there was a catch basin box that was holding water. It is still holding a little bit of water, about 4 inches. We have figured out what the problem is. There's a piece of clay in the line that we can't reach. Till it rained this morning, we had a truck lined up to come actually flush the line, but that's postponed till tomorrow or possibly Friday. That line will be flushed. There's a large piece of clay holding the water back. And then there was a piece of sidewalk left off in the back cul-de-sac. That, I think it was 60 feet. That piece of sidewalk has been poured and destroyed 2 days ago. When the low boy came in to move a tractor out of there, they tracked across the sidewalk, so it has to be redone again. So we now, instead of having 2 items, we have 3. We have a 60-foot piece of sidewalk that needs to be redone, a box, and the survey, to my knowledge. And staff may have something else that I missed.
All right. We'll go ahead and open a public hearing on this. Has anybody signed up to speak, Ms. Stacy? All right, nobody signed up to speak. We'll close the public hearing. Any comments from the commissioners?
Is that right from the staff? What Mr. Behringer said, that's all that's outstanding on the punch list?
That I would need to confirm that, it's the last 2 to 3 items, but I know that they were working on these items this couple of days right after the final inspection. I wouldn't be surprised if it's down to the last 2 or 3. I haven't confirmed that it is, it is just exactly 3, but I have no reason to think that that's not an accurate number at this time.
Any other comments, questions by the commission? Hearing none, do we have a motion on River Landing second filing?
Move subject to compliance with all requirements.
Mr. Dumas makes a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Dudley and Mr. Foster. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Number 12, staff report. Mr. Moran.
We have recently, it's come up that we have not historically, for the past few years that I've been here at least, enforced collecting wetlands determinations with preliminary plat submittals. So what we have, I'm going to request a public hearing next month on a ordinance revision to collect a wetland determination at some later time, whether with construction plans or before construction plans are approved or with final plat, something later. So they don't have to do it with preliminary plat, because it takes a long time to get a wetlands determination from the Corps. And I feel like if they go through all that trouble and wait all that time to get the wetlands determination and then come and get a preliminary plat tonight, they've wasted that time. So I feel like it's just something that could be done a little bit later.
You want to set that for a public hearing next month?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other staff report? Do we have to move to set that
Yes.
for a public hearing? All right. So we need to have a motion regarding a public hearing at our next meeting regarding the, changing the timing for the wetlands determination. Do we have a motion?
I'm so moved.
So
I'll
by
second.
Mr. Bishop, second by Mr. Dumas. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Anything else from staff? Yes, Mr. Brock.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to announce, I know that you heard Sean speak a few times, but I want to welcome Sean here. He's our ERA for the Planning Commission, and I just want to welcome him and being on staff and being with us.
Welcome, and thank you for your insight tonight. Before moving on with that, the news reports are right. Mr. Moran, this is probably your last meeting with us. Is that correct? Want to thank you for your service to the parish and for the valuable service that you've given this commission over the years. Thank you
Yes,
very
sir.
much.
Thank
and
you.
Good luck with everything in your future, sir.
Thank you.
Best of luck to you.
Engineering staff report. Mr. Sharrow.
All right, so as you are aware, we're in the middle of a little transition right here. So the engineering staff report for tonight is just basically to state, where CSRS is on board as the engineering review agency. I think Mr. Dumas would, recall, and Lance, we served this capacity over for about a 3-year period, I believe between 2005 and 2008. So we're very familiar with the parish and your regulations, and just look forward to working with you all to see, such as the engineering reports, you'd work together what you all wanted to see, items regarding punch lists, contingency items, preliminary plats, drainage studies. We're here, at the direction of the Planning Commission, so just look forward to working with you all. Next meeting, I'll be able to work with you all to see what type of reports and information you all would like to see presented at these meetings. And other than that, I don't know if you have any questions or comments regarding that, but that's my engineering staff report for tonight.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Good to see you back, Sean.
And item number 14, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
By Mr. Dumas, we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.